Hello there. This is Paul Glumaz, and this is being brought to you from General Welfare Presents. And today is the 5th of October. And I want to start by going over the situation for the next 30 or so days, which are coming. And then spilling over into December, January, and February. And now I also want to go through what the stakes are in this period, both from the standpoint of what the power behind the Biden apparatus, the Obama apparatus, and their intentions, as well as what you can expect to be where Trump will be going in this situation. Okay, now the situation over the next 30 days is been partly influenced in part by the COVID situation with the president, and that's being made a lot is being made around it. There's attempts to play it in many ways politically, but the real situation is that the polls are very inaccurate, okay? And the hysteria within the institutions about Donald Trump is so great that Nancy Pelosi, in response to the COVID situation of the president, opened the door to discussing something called continuity of government. Now, a continuity of government is what happens when there's a catastrophe. And this law has been revised at the through the Obama administration and an executive order that Obama did in December before he left office, such that it actually paves the way in the event of a major catastrophe, which could be manufactured or not, I don't know, to essentially transform the government into a military government, a non-civilian government that will run the country during a period. That also implies a nuclear war. So she's implying with this continuity of government issue what would be the circumstances in which you would have to have a continuity of government, and that would be a nuclear war or a something very catastrophic. So this is the kind of thing that's now coming in. So if Trump is going to win the election, what would a nuclear war be the way to go for the empire, essentially? Would something like that be the way to go for the empire? That's the kind of thing that you're dealing. Okay, so we have a situation where the polls are very inaccurate, where the new registration is 2-1 Republican over Democrat. And most of the polls merely deal with regular voters, not people who've never voted before. So it's another reason the polls are inaccurate. The polls are also inaccurate because people who are supporters of Trump don't want to advertise it because of the reactions that they get, and because they could have injury as a result, because the environment has been created by the media with a lot of Trump derangement syndrome people. It's like triggering, like a landmine. You don't want to say you're for Trump, etc. So now the media can say what they want. The polls can say what they want. They can attack. They can trivialize everything. But the people coming in to vote, the new people, are being activated by a process as long as they see Trump fighting. So that's the issue of the last debate. It was 2-1. Chris Wallace and Joe Biden against Trump. They really didn't. There's no real effort to allow for a real discussion. It was all attack, 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 attack. And for many people, this looks really bad. But if you're somebody that's given up on everything because everything's so terrible, and you're looking to drain the swamp, well, the fact that Trump fought is very important. But you're dealing with a infinite loop cycle of media news. You saw this with the COVID thing, where they took one little possibility that it wasn't exactly right, what the doctor said, and then they spun it in so many different ways, creating, it's an echo chamber. That's what it is. It's a huge echo chamber of noise. And like, I'll give you an example. You have a lot of people who don't vote, who are conservative, who are preppers, who are Second Amendment people. That is, they're pretty like, if things are going to go south, they want to be able to survive. And they don't vote because they don't want to put their name on voter registration form, because they don't want to be known. Well, these are the people that are now going to be voting, that never voted. For some of the people that are now going to be voting that never voted before. I have a nephew who works in San Diego in a plumbing warehouse. He's a Latino, and all his networks of people he's talking to down in San Diego, they're going for Trump. These are working class people. These are ethnic Latinos and African Americans, and these are working class. These are people involved in construction and in the and so forth. Now, so the question is, how is this working? Why is Trump such a so-called divisive figure? Why is he causing such a... Well, the media is causing it, but what is it that Trump does that causes this reaction within a certain minority of the population, but a very large minority of the population, a very large educated minority of the population? And so that's what I want to go into now, is the psychology of this. What you have is 50 years at least of brainwashing or campaigning in the schools, in the universities, the Vietnam War, the rock, drug, sex, counterculture. You have this Frankfurt School, critical theory, critical race theory, and all the other things, historical revisionism, etc. And what comes out of that process is the hatred for America. You hate America because of what they did to the indigenous people. You hate America because of slavery. You hate America because of the Vietnam War. You hate America because of the empire that it's backing up through its military-industrial complex. You hate America. America was never good. America is a blight on humanity. And this is how people are educated. This is how they... So you create develop a hatred. And the idea of we're all equal, we're all created in the image of the Creator, is an oppressive idea. That's an authoritarian idea. That's a white, dead white European male evil idea. God is an evil idea. So you have this a large portion of these people are hating America, okay? And then you have the people that actually had to fight the wars, the people that actually had to get screwed because they didn't go to college, and so on and so forth. the people who are working class, who maintain traditional values, who, trying to raise families in this situation, and are not like that, they're looked upon as the America to be hated. Why? Because they're lesser beings. They go to football games, they go to baseball games, they watch TV, they drink beer, they pack guns, whatever. The image, you get this cultural image. So, but the problem is, those who hate America from the left are going against the peace president. The peace president. This is the president who wants to stop the wars. That's how messed up this thing is. But the problem is, if you operate on hate, you can't think straight. You can't be rational. You're controlled by the emotion. If you don't have love or agape, or you have that quality of love that existed with Dr. Martin Luther King in the civil rights movement, you can't win a war. You can't change the society. You cannot make things better unless you have that sense of love. So it is the deeper love for your nation, for the future, for your children, for humanity, that will also allow you to fight. And for your nation. And Trump has tapped into that. That's been dormant. It's been there. He tapped into it. And it's now manifesting itself in these rallies. It's now manifesting itself and so forth. Now, Antifa is based on hate. It can only destroy. It began in Great Britain as the Black Bloc. It moved to Germany as anti-Deutschland and became Antifa, anti-fascist. And it's now in the U.S. and it's funded by billionaires, and it's an indoctrination process where they take radical people who are being radicalized and they funnel them in a certain direction, and they become anarchists, and they get into the anarchist culture, and then they get deployed, and then there's also mercenaries and others involved. So now, to give you a sense of how people are how the institutions are upset, there's a Washington Post op-ed had a headline: "Imagine what it will be like never to have to think about Trump again." Just think about that. Just what Trump is doing in reviving a certain quality of what the nation is, what humanity is, what the future is, the space program, that we can change, we can make the country better, we can make it greater. This is hated. It's hated because it attacks everyone's identity, which is anti-American. It's a hatred of America. Now, so the identity, so this is why you have such so-called division. The division is over identity. The division is over the future. The division is over your emotional connection to the idea of the nation, to the idea of your nation. Do you love your nation? Do you care about what happens to your nation? Or do you want to see your nation destroyed? Or do you feel so alienated from your nation that you're not that you have nothing but hatred? So is Donald Trump a white supremacist? Or at a different time, is Lyndon LaRouche an anti-Semite? Well, Trump must be a white supremacist because he believes in America, etc., a racist country, founded by white European males for the purpose of perpetrating slavery upon the poor and other people and other ethnic groups. LaRouche must be an anti-Semite because he believes in that the international banking system is an imperial system. That makes him an anti-Semite because he's talking about a conspiracy of international finance, or he's implying that. People will say Trump is a divider. Yes, that's totally true. You have to separate the silent majority and activate them. You have to separate the people that want to fight from the people that hate what you're doing. And that dialectic, you might say, that process is where the energy is being generated. The energy is not being generated by Joseph Biden. He's not generating any energy at all. It's being totally generated by Trump and the crisis. And that means, and what does it mean to be a uniter in this situation? Well, you're uniting with the power structure. You're ending the division. You're creating a one with the power structure. Uniting in this context means death. Dividing and crushing the power structure means a future. So now let's look at what's at stake here. There's a very interesting article that came out in the Atlantic, which is the publication of the owned by Laureen Powell Jobs, the widow of Steve Jobs. And this article goes into what the world would be like if Henry Wallace had been the vice president when Truman died. The world that they describe would be a world where there would be no confrontation with the Soviet Union, where there would be no expansion of U.S. military all over the world, where and they compared Henry Wallace to Donald Trump. Okay, Donald Trump was compared to Henry Wallace, and Joseph Biden was compared to Harry Truman. The Cold War, the Mad Doctrine, the dropping of the nuclear bombs is what they laid out, and so forth. So they have a sense that Trump is of a different tradition, of the tradition that Roosevelt represented and Henry Wallace represented. So they have a sense of this. So this is where the stakes are. These are huge stakes. Now, the Federal Reserve and the Bank of England and other central banks are preparing in the crash to go to a central bank cryptocurrency and dump the dollar. Okay? And this is the post-collapse financial system that's being prepared using cryptocurrencies. The Federal Reserve has available, earmarked for use, and they're not using it, a fund to put people back to work. But it's not being used. Now, there is something called the International Economic Emergency Powers Act, which was passed in 1977, which in a financial crisis, you can carry out a nationalization of the Federal Reserve. And instead of going into a cryptocurrency, you can generate the dollars for the economic development. And then those dollars will have a value because if they're connected to the real development of the nation. So this is also coming into play. Now, so it's a question of whether the nation will be submitted to the bankers and the central banks that they control, or whether the central bank will be nationalized and put at the disposal of the nation. That's part of what's at stake in this 3-4 month period. So as a result, so this is what you're seeing on the other side of the Trump election, or Biden election, or whatever. You see, this is what you're seeing on the other side. And the other thing that's it's absolutely significant is the fact that Trump is very serious about the space program, is very serious about Artemis. Artemis is getting underway, and if Trump does not have a second term, it'll be shut down. But if he does have a second term, Artemis will define the future direction of science, technology, the industrial development of the moon, the colonization of Mars. That economic future will transform the Earth. So that's what's on the other side of this 4-month period, is that. So I want to thank you for checking in, and I'll see you in a week.